This September will mark my 10-year anniversary on DeviantArt. Oh, how times have changed. Ever since Eclipse changed the algorithm about a year ago, DeviantArt has become desolate and a former shell of itself. I miss old 2010s DeviantArt. Hell, I miss the 2010s internet as a whole, when memes didn't die off quickly and rapid cancellation of others was mostly kept on Tumblr, instead of being the forefront of social media. Looking at you, Twitter. For those unaware, about 2 years ago, DeviantArt announced that they'd be implementing a new website layout called Eclipse, and the majority of users on the site were against it. Despite this, the DA admins still went through with it. In May of 2020, Eclipse became permanent, causing many people to leave the platform. Even before Eclipse, DA was losing its spark. The new layout extinguished whatever was left of that spark. Now, there's still quality content on the site, albeit few and far between from what I've personally seen. The amount of feedback I've been getting on my art these days has been scarce. Looking back at 2019 and before, I'd get a handful of comments, which meant a lot to me. As an OC or original character creator, it means the world to me when people take an interest in my art and characters. Enough to say something on the art. Favorites are nice, but I love comments and interacting with people. Since 2020, comments on my art have been few and far between anymore. And if I'm being honest, I haven't been giving a lot of verbal feedback on DeviantArt anymore either, so I guess that's fair? When I first joined DeviantArt in 2011, I was a naive teenager that was hyper-fixated on Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was going through my anime phase. I was a cringe bucket traditional artist, but it was a start. It was pretty surreal talking to people who made the fan art I liked months before I joined the site. I posted both fan art and original work at the time. I mostly drew cartoon animals and bizarre-looking bird people. I met my first real online friend in 2012. Her name was Jess. We bonded over being autistic, our love of the Beatles, as well as cartoons and anime, and our OCs. She was the first person to genuinely take an interest in my content, and it meant a lot. She would comment on every upload, and I would look forward to it every time. That summer, I met one of my best friends, Mert. I don't think I had ever been as attached to someone else's OCs as I've had with Mert's, and the feeling was mutual. We'd constantly give each other feedback on each other's characters and art. He wound up disappearing for several periods of time. But he and I talk to each other on a daily basis now, so it's all water under the bridge. He's no longer active on DA, but we keep in touch over Discord, so it's cool. In the summer of 2012, I made my first Catboy OCs, Keenan and Evan, and gradually shifted towards more humanoid characters than animal ones. I really grew as an artist and character creator with each passing year, and I owe it to DeviantArt and my art friends. I transitioned to digital art in 2013 by tracing over my traditional art with the mousepad connected to my laptop. I flip-flopped between traditional and digital at the time, using GIMP for digital art. I ended up getting my first tablet in Christmas of that year, and stuck to digital after getting the hang of it. By 2014, I had pretty much made digital art my main medium. Back to 2013, I met this OC artist, Jenny, I believe was her name, whom I could have an intellectual conversation with. She was the first to point out that my characters felt like real people. I was taken aback by the comment, but flattered. It wasn't my intention to make quote unquote realistic characters, but I'll take it. It means I'm doing something right. I usually try to avoid stereotypes when creating characters. Sadly, that artist dropped off the face of the earth at one point. I wonder how she's doing. Around 2013 onward, my buddy Jess became busy with life and was on less and less. I think she had disappeared for a year around 2014 or 2015 and one day deactivated. I miss her. I hope she's doing well wherever she is. I wonder if she ever thinks about me. I wonder if her art ever got better. If I'm being honest, she drew like a little kid back when we met, but she had a lot of creative ideas and potential. I would love to reconnect with her one day if possible, but I don't know how. I have no way of contacting her at all. In 2015, I joined my first role playing group, the kind where you make an OC to live in that group's world and have them interact with other people's characters. I was awkward at trying to initiate RPs and connections with people. I managed to make a few connections, albeit short lived, but it was nice while it lasted. Over time, most of the RP groups I was in lost their spark and went inactive, and I'm at a point where I just rather roleplay with close friends, if anything. I tend to feel a large disconnect between myself and people I'm not close to. In 2016, I started working on my first comic, Teenage Wasteland. It took 4 years to complete with the one episode or chapter. It was a worthwhile project that helped me grow as an artist, but I wish I had a better concept of perspective and backgrounds back when I started out. But you gotta start somewhere, I guess. I'll leave a link to it in the description below if anyone's curious. At the moment, Teenage Wasteland is on hiatus. 2017 was my experimental year. I remember playing around with shading a lot back then, something I had previously been wary of. To this day, I rarely shade anything though. I like to keep things simple, and trying to shade both characters and backgrounds is overwhelming for me to think about. I do shade on occasion, but I don't want my art to feel like a chore, you know? It's nice every once in a while to give a drawing a nice look. At the moment, I'd rather focus on the characters themselves. 2018 is when I switched from GIMP to Clip Studio Paint, thanks to my amazingly talented pal, Mr. OAH. I highly recommend the program. It's not free though. That year, I met my buddy Bree, and she inspired me to draw anthro characters again. As I mentioned earlier, I started out drawing anthros, but I eventually switched to drawing mostly kimono mimi, which are basically the humans with animal ears and tails and stuff. Most of my furry OCs were either pushed to the back burner or repurposed as humanoids. When I saw how Bree drew her anthros, it reignited an old flame in me, and I revamped a lot of those anthro OCs, especially Ben and Todd, who have become two of my favorite OCs and one of my favorite couples. Like with Mert, Bree became not only a friend but an inspiration. I loved her characters and ideas, and seeing her art would light up my day, and that still applies today. In 2019, I had a bad falling out with a previously close friend of mine from DeviantArt. I did a lot of self reflection in 2019, and I gotta say, a little introspection goes a long way. It made me realize how toxic that individual was, as well as how toxic I was in the past, and how much I've grown as a person since. And it made me realize who my real friends were, and how much better they make my life in the long run, and how I'm better off without that shitty ex friend in my life. I'm human, I have flaws, and I make mistakes. I'm mature enough to see where I go wrong and own up to it and try to better myself. I don't know where I would be without my best buds. Among those in that tier include Mert, Bree, and Mr. OAH. The first half of 2020 wasn't too bad for me. Being quarantined actually gave me a lot of free time to work on art, among other things. Sadly, it was the year DA truly took a nosedive. Eclipse happened, as I mentioned before, and most of the artists I enjoyed jumped ship. I managed to get the hang of Eclipse, but it'll never beat old DA's layout. The later half of 2020 had been a rough patch for my mental health, with a combination of world events, politics, my medication losing its effect on me. I'm much better now, though. I'm in therapy and my med dosage has been upped. Right now in 2021, I'm at a standstill. DA is dead, but I still stick around in spite of it all. It was my online home for a long, long time. It's like really loving your childhood home and all the fond memories, and now the home is run down and barren, the inhabitants gone, all the things you enjoyed not even there anymore, and it's sad. One thing I do miss about old DA is the questionnaire journals, whether it be a blank tablet for filling out questions or you get tagged by other users to answer their questions. I especially love the ones about OCs, or you could fill them out as your OCs. I filled out something similar that I found on Facebook a while back, but I've been hesitant to post it as a journal on DeviantArt since feedback is scarce and I don't want to face the disappointment of it falling flat. A small tidbit I do miss from DeviantArt's old layout are the birthday reminders in the left-hand corner of the message and feedback tab. There would be a thing that was listing off birthdays that were coming up within the next 1 to 7 days. I'm bad at remembering birthdays, so it was helpful for reminding me to make gifts for my friends. Eclipse basically axed that. One thing on DeviantArt I don't care about, past and present, are the llama badges. I used to give them out as a way of saying thank you or you're cool, but now I'm a jaded adult and they're so pointless. You can't do anything with the llama badges. There was an option to trade points for llamas, but not the other way around. For those that don't know, points are basically currency on DA for when you're too young to have a PayPal and all that. At least with points you could commission people or buy adopts or whatever. With llamas, they're just there. What purpose do they serve? One thing I've never liked about DeviantArt was all the weird fetish art. From feet to inflation to in diapers, that shit never appealed to me. I had to download an extension that allowed me to filter out tags and users. But if you can get past all the niche fetishes, there's still a lot of wonderful talented artists on there, in spite of everything. You just gotta look hard enough. Anyone out there have any fond memories of DeviantArt? Let me know in the comments below. Take care.